Welcome to the From Concealment Podcast, the show for firearm enthusiasts who like to shoot, train, carry, and compete. Get ready for some shooting and sight, firearm and accessory reviews, and of course, insight on concealed carry. And now, broadcasting from behind enemy lines in the From Concealment studio, it's Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams.
Hey, Freedom Nation, this is Pete Mitchell.
And I'm Dan Sams.
And despite our lagging internet connection, which every once in a while gives us a little blurb here, we're here for another great podcast episode.
Yeah. Well, you know, when the feds are tapping into your internet connection to listen in on everything you say and do, and clearly they're doing it to both of us, it's got to be slowing down that internet because they got to filter it all in and out.
Not only that, but you and I both, I think, run on Macs, which we know Apple just said, oh, we're going to look at everything on your phones only.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, whatever, dude.
The phones only. And only to catch bad guys, right?
Yeah, you guys aren't opposed to us catching bad guys. This is the same organization that refused to unlock an iPhone when we had the Muslims in San Bernardino shoot up everybody. But, this is over here. It's even worse than terrorist action. We need to search everyone's phones.
Well, and I would say, I want pedophiles to be caught and punished. Like, I want that to happen.
And isn't it interesting? That's where they start with the one thing we can all agree on.
Which I've heard a lot of security guys say, well, first of all, we know this is a Trojan horse, right? We all agree that pedophiles need to be caught and executed. Like, that's done. That needs to happen. That's biblical. That's what needs to happen. But they already don't do that. They let him out on the street. So unfortunately, that's not, being handled right anyway. We know this whole operation is a Trojan horse, should just get away with watching you for everything. And that's what they're going to do. That's probably what they're already doing. So facing facts, that's what it is. So please don't get excited and say, yay, look what they're doing. Like, hopefully our listeners are smart enough to say, wait a minute, this is a huge invasion of privacy under the guise of good intentions.
And see, here's the problem. I don't know where I can turn. Like, I hate Apple now. Well, and not just now. I mean, they've been down this path for a while, right? So I have not been an Apple fan, but they have got their hooks into me where it's like, okay, well, I can airdrop stuff from my iPad to my desktop to my phone. Mm-hmm. I mean, life is really easy when I'm on an Apple. But if I go to, God forbid, a Windows-based machine, those things just, like at our church on Sunday, we couldn't live stream because the Windows machine crashed about a half hour before and didn't reboot for 2 hours. Church was over. It was like, you don't want to do that. And it's like, what am I going to do? Go to a Google Android phone? Well, they're no better than Apple.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Anything Microsoft based is just run by the other mark of the beast person who's tracking everything. Like, the scary stuff that Bill Gates is involved in. That dude's
his wife is leaving him because of Epstein. Come on. What does that tell you about the guy?
Yeah. Well, and so also, have you seen some of the stats on how bad Common Core has just failed? That was like his project, man. Oh, yeah. He was pushing Common Core hardcore. We also know, like, before COVID happened, I think it was a TED Talk where he talked about how there's too much population, but we can reduce it. And he listed several different ways. And one of them was vaccines. He wanted to lower population with vaccines.
That's just weird.
Right. And so, he actually said that. Like, that's not like a conspiracy. Like, he makes the statement. And of course, who is it that's pushing vaccines like crazy? Bill Gates. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist. It's just like, this is crazy and creepy. And so I clearly can't go to a PC based device. Like, there, as you say, there's no good options. I keep saying, like, maybe old Elon will start manufacturing phones. That would be great.
But see, I don't trust Elon that much more either. Because
I know he's bad too.
Any one guy can, like, switch.
Yeah.
Could all of a sudden be, I mean, because think about it. Apple used to be like this bastion of freedom, and now it's not.
It's over. Yeah. Well, this is why corporatism is bad. We believe in the free market. We're against corporatism. And like one of the things I like to point out to people, like Elon, for as much cool stuff as he's doing, he still gets a whole bunch of government funding for it. Like, I mean, he's essentially like, he's getting space program money. And I think he's doing a better job with it than NASA would, but still, like, he's all just running off government money there. And so, like, I like him better than the alternatives, but you're exactly right. Like, anybody can go bad, and none of these guys are good.
Right.
So, so it worth just kind of in the vein of all of this. Our topic today is just general government and corporatist overreach. And I just want to point out I mean, you and I have been talking about things like this we've been concerned about for, I don't know, however long we've been doing this podcast, a couple of years.
Yeah.
We've been doing it a while. We've been talking about this. We've had concerns. And of course, we had concerns since way before this. And all of those concerns have been justified over time. Like, I think about the things that happened during COVID that, a year before that, people would have called us conspiracy theorists to say, these are the kind of things that are going to go on. Like, I remember people talking about, I don't know if we specifically mentioned it, but saying like they would use health scares in order to create a problem to take away freedoms. Well, they're doing it. Like, they've done it. It happened. Like, think about, we're now in a place where they are talking very seriously. Some people are actually doing it, of implementing restrictions if you don't have the vaccine. And so can you imagine not being able to search or shop certain places, go certain places without proof that you've had a vaccine? We're talking about stopping people effectively and asking for their papers. That is straight Third Reich and or Soviet Union tyranny. And it's being accepted like widely. And so I think about all this.
And yet don't have to prove you're you when you vote.
Exactly. Which, I mean, think about how, like, this is just flagrant. Yeah. So what I've noticed is for guys like us, it's almost like a relief. We're like, well, this is awful, but yeah, we told you so, and you should have listened. I'm noticing a wider group of people now that are in the anxiety stage. I wonder if we should probably sit down and work through, like, it's like the stages of grief. And maybe it's the exact stages of grief, but there's like denial. What is it? Anxiety. I don't remember what it was. I don't know them. But what I'm noticing is when it comes to quote unquote conspiracies coming true, it starts with denial. It goes to this anxiety. And I don't know if I could lay them out from there. But what I'm noticing is that a whole new group of people just hit the anxiety stage. And people that even during COVID were like, yeah, I'm concerned about this. This is bad, but we don't need to be as worried. Now those people are getting concerned. And some of the people that were already concerned are getting more concerned. And so I'm just noticing this anxiety, in some cases, even a despair, because it's like, what are we going to do? Like they're looking on our phones. They're paying attention to everything. They know every search we do. So I figured it would just be worth bringing up and saying like, hey, a new group of people might be joining the freedom movement. And I don't know if you've noticed this too, but I feel like I'm still seeing more people hit that anxious stage where they're finally starting to ask questions, right? And I keep thinking that like, oh, this is the last group of people. But now, I mean, there were some people that I thought, man, this guy's so indoctrinated, he's never going to be joining us. And now some of those people are like, wait a minute. This is nuts. We can't trust our government, can we? And I'm like, yeah, no crap. Yeah, you can't. So I just thought it would be worth bringing up. I don't know if you're experiencing this, Pete, but bringing up and talking about how do we talk to those people who are just hitting the anxiety stage, and how can we help them? So any thoughts, Pete?
I don't know how we help them, but I'm glad that they're finally reaching that stage because there's a lot of people who I think have. Well, and I would say there's a lot that still have their head firmly in the sand. Yeah. And are not looking around. I've got family that, definitely is on the liberal side of things, especially when it comes to all of this medical mandate stuff. Yeah. And this last weekend, I got an email from one of them and it was like, forwarded on from Kaiser Hospital, the 6 things you need to know about the Delta variant. And I'm like, why are you sending this to us? Are you offended that we're not afraid of the Delta variant? Are you like, our stance on all this? We believe COVID's real. We also believe the government's overreaching, and we believe that we have a personal choice in what we do, if we want to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine. And I'm absolutely 100% not going to allow my kids to take it until it's gone through proper FDA approved examination and trials. It takes about 5 years. So maybe in 5 years, I'd re-examine that after proper trials. But my kids aren't guinea pigs for you to test. That's just the way it is. Me, on the other hand, I heard someone say, we're thinking about, one of us, the spouse is getting vaccinated and the other one not, just so they could kind of, play the odds. And I was like, that actually isn't that bad of an idea, of like, hey, one of us will get it. Maybe one of us lives, one of us dies, but we're still there for the kids, which I thought was kind of a smart way to look at things.
Yeah.
But like now, my entire family is sick. I'm the only one who's not sick. I'm the asymptomatic carrier, I'm sure. Right. And I'm looking at it going, okay, is this COVID? Is this not COVID? I mean, no one's that sick and they're all pretty much coming out of it. Mackenzie got sick and then that just started the dominoes, and Jamie, my wife, she's coming out of it now, probably better today. I haven't had a chance to talk to her yet this morning. But it's like, okay, if this is COVID, I'm especially now not going to go get the vaccine because our natural immunity kicked its butt. And now we got the antibodies already in us. Why do I need something else? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. I
know. Well, and especially so, this is loose information, but I was listening to a doctor talk about they haven't had great success making COVID, the general broad grouping of COVID. They haven't had great success making COVID vaccines. They've tried before there was COVID-19.
Right.
And one of the things they ran into is some of the tests had like 2 years in when they were re-exposed that the death rate increased significantly. So like vaccinated testing on chimpanzees or whatever it was. And then 2 years after, a re-exposure led to death. And that was, there was a reason why the long-term testing is essential and why it's kind of a thing. So what was interesting to me, I actually just saw an article today on COVID side effects, the COVID vaccine side effects. And one of the things they were saying is like, well, if you're going to have any side effects, it's going to be within the first couple of weeks. So don't worry about it. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like you haven't been able to test, like this hasn't existed has it even been a year that the vaccine has been in existence?
Well, they had the vaccine shortly after, like a day or two after they had broken down the virus. But I don't believe it started testing until last summer. And then distribution was maybe August, September?
Yeah. So it's funny to me that, you'll read a medical article that will say that you're not going to experience any negative symptoms more than 2 weeks out or whatever it was. When it's like, well, how do you know? Like you haven't tested it for more than a year. Like you don't know. And so those kind of things are certainly a concern to me. And I'm with you. I'm like, I'm not anti-vaccination. I'm just anti-forcing it. And I think we should be allowed to ask some hard questions.
I think I've got all the other vaccines that my generation had. I'd be surprised if I didn't. I know I need a tetanus shot. I live near a racetrack, and you get a tetanus from horses. You step on a nail, and if there's a horse in the area, they can leave the virus or whatever on the metal, and that's how you get tetanus. And tetanus has like a 98% death rate. It's a no joke virus or whatever it is. I don't know, bacteria. I'm no scientist, right? So anyway, like I know I need that one because it's been probably 20 years since I had my last tetanus shot. I'm not anti-vax. I'm totally against you forcing me. And the more they force, like this whole New York City, you got to prove your papers, show your papers before you enter inside of a building. LA, which is primarily vaccinated, their city council met and said, well, we think, we don't want New York to outdo us. We need to have papers, please, over here. City attorney, please draft the papers. How do we force people to prove they're vaccinated? And it's like, dude, it's not legal. But you and I talked about this on the podcast. We were like, look, Supreme Court right now has got a couple of gun cases that they've agreed to hear. And on some level, the left is freaked out because they pretty much know how the Supreme Court's going to vote on these. I mean, we never know for sure, but it's looking like they're conservative leaning, and they're going to be like, you got to give people this right. You can't interfere. But you and I both have said on here, it kind of doesn't matter. They're just going to ignore the Supreme Court.
Yeah. They're already ignoring the Constitution, so why not ignore whatever Supreme Court ruling?
And didn't we just see Biden's administration do that? Supreme Court said CDC doesn't have the right to issue a moratorium on evictions. Supreme Court literally came out and said that. You can't issue a moratorium on evictions. You're the CDC. Mm-hmm. You don't have that right. Oh, we're going to go ahead and do it again anyway, even though the Supreme Court just said you can't do that. And no one is going to arms over this. It's like, forget it. We don't have three branches of government. I don't even think we have two branches. I think we're down to one dictatorship.
Down to one. Well, this is the other thing is what people don't realize is that when you have a group of bureaucrats, and we've used the illustration of the ATF and now the CDC making mandates that generally go along with things that our executives are putting in place as well. Now you've ruled out the judicial branch and the legislative branch gone, like it's meaningless. And so they're just making bureaucratic statements and going along with it. And we probably should go to war over it. I'm looking for somebody to stand up and say, hey, let's not allow this to happen anymore. Hypothetically in Minecraft for comedy.
I mean, yes, it's worthy of fighting back. But again, like we've talked about before, I don't believe that most people, I certainly don't want to go to war. I know you don't want to go to war. I don't want to see a civil war. I don't want to see death. I don't want to see that kind of destruction. I think there is a lot more that the American people will tolerate before they reach the breaking point. And it'll be too late. It's too late every time, right? Because no one wants to go to war. One of the books that you recommended was On Killing.
Yeah.
And I haven't finished it, but I've got it on Audible. And I was driving the other day. I'm like, I'm going to turn on that book. Man, just listening to it, I was like, yeah, no one really wants to kill.
Yeah.
We will do anything we can to not kill.
Yeah.
Even in war.
And that's great. Here's my thing. My thing is what we really need before anyone kills anybody is just disobedience to unlawful laws. So I was listening to Doug Wilson, and his blog and Mayblog podcast is brilliant. I highly recommend it. But I think it was either his dad or his granddad. He's older, but his dad or granddad was stationed in post-World War II Germany in Berlin. And he talks about how when the Soviets started building the Berlin Wall, there was no, agreement. There was no law. They just started building it. They had no right to do that. They just started building it. He said the right time to tear down the Berlin Wall would have been when the first blocks were laid. And he's like, we should have just taken bulldozers and just pushed it over. And you do that enough times, they realized we're not going to get away with that. He's like, but once the wall is complete and there's concertina wire across the top and there's guard towers with snipers, you can't just push it over with a bulldozer then.
Right.
And so the implication or the principle here, and by the way, like he's talking he's like, this was my eyewitness. He said, I don't remember if his dad or his granddad, is like, he explained exactly what we should have done in retrospect. And he's saying now in this situation, he's like, just don't comply. Like, don't wear a mask. Don't obey the orders. Like, we need enough people just saying, screw you. Like, and it doesn't take that many. You just need enough to let them know that they can't get away with it. And this is why these kind of conversations like you and I are having are so important. And there just needs to be enough people say, screw that. Like, I'm not going to go along with that. And it doesn't take that many.
I don't know that where I live, I don't know that there's enough people. Like
when
we go out,
probably not.
Yeah, when we go out, I mean, everyone's wearing a mask. Like, I'm usually the only one in an area not wearing a mask. And remember, I'm the asymptomatic carrier. I'm infecting everybody.
Right.
I'm doing my part.
Good for you.
That's right.
Good for you. We got to lower that population somehow.
Herd immunity, baby. Herd immunity. I'm the guy helping us get there quicker.
Right on, man. Yeah, but I think that's maybe the main message of today is maybe we don't need to think towards what's going to go down that's going to cause us to have to fight. Maybe we just think towards let's organize disobedience. Like, there are people, it's not on the news here, but like in Europe, they're doing mass protest against vaccine passports, and good for them. Our news doesn't want us to know about that. But like, that's even in liberal Europe, like they're fighting this. And so we should, we need people to organize. Let's have a demonstration and let's just say, screw you. We're not going to use your vaccine passports. We're not going to use your masks. We're not going to be forced. And like, can you imagine, like, I'm thinking if you're a business and 200 people walk up and want to give you business and they're not going to wear masks, average small business owner is going to be like, okay, no way I can stop 200 of you anyway. Come on in.
Unless they're getting enough money from the government.
Yeah.
And their pride goes, well, no, I think you all should be wearing masks. I got it. I got the government tit over here. I'm good.
Yeah. Which, here's the thing though, those guys don't realize that they still can't be in business forever on government subsidies.
No one realizes that.
Nope. And so I saw some post somebody did where they said, the people who kept you businesses in business were the people willing to defy mask and stay at home orders, right? So now those are the same people that don't want to get the vaccine. And now you're going to block those people that kept you open for these last 18 months. You're going to block those people from coming into your store now. Like, who's going to be there to help you when it goes down again and your business isn't going to be able to stay afloat? Because the reality is the government.
And now as a business, do I have to hire my own Walmart greeter to check everyone's vaccine passport before letting them in the store? No, no way am I wasting money checking a vaccine passport. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's interesting to me to see how many stores have the wear your mask sign up and no one in the store is wearing them. No employee, nobody.
That's because of where you live.
Yeah. Well, and which what they're essentially doing is like, well, we got to put this friggin' sign up, but like you say more with what you do than with what you say, what you do and what you say. And so I like seeing that. I almost didn't go into a store. I was actually pulling up to a Circle K. Actually, the Circle K of the Twisted Tea incident from last year.
Oh yeah.
I was in that very Circle K. Actually, I think it was that Circle K because I think there's two in Elyria. Anyway, I think it was that Circle K I was in, and I'm walking up to it, and they've got a no mask sign or a mask sign, and I'm like, I'm not wearing a mask. I turn around and go the other way, and some lady's like, "It's okay, you don't have to wear a mask," and I'm like, "Party on!" And I went right on in because I'm like, I'm not going to patronize that store if they're going to try to keep unmasked people out. So anyway, thoughts of the day. A reason why I'm bringing it all up is I'm just seeing the new wave of concerned people that all of a sudden are taking this seriously. And every couple of months, I think, wow, this is the last of them. Finally, they've come awake. But like just a few minutes ago, I'm talking to a friend of mine who's just like, I've never felt more attacked for my beliefs than I am now. Wow. And he's like, what am I going to do? What are we doing? And long story, we spent some time together, talked a little bit, and I'm like, you need to buy some guns, man. Like you need an AR-15. You need 2 of them. You need to learn to shoot. You need to learn some tactical formation.
And by the way, everyone needs at least 2, because if one goes down, you need to have parts, and you can use parts from the other or the other gun entirely.
Yeah. Well, and another benefit, by the way, of doing a build, because every time you do a build, unless you're being so meticulous, most of us, we buy, you buy your stock and it comes with a buffer tube, but then you also buy a buffer tube kit. So you've got an extra buffer tube, right? And then you buy
how many freaking parts I've got.
Oh my. Then you buy your lower parts kit, but you also buy the oops kit. So you've got little pieces of that,
and then you're like, well, I want this trigger. And so
now you've got an extra trigger, right? And so the other thing is you end up with extra parts when you do builds anyway. So before you know, you might even have a third gun. I'm getting closer to that. But but you're exactly right. Have two of them. Now, my first thought is have two so that your wife can shoot while you shoot. It's better to have two people, sending fire down range than just to have one. But also it does allow you to make sure that you've got parts to repair. But yeah, I'm just bringing this up. I'm noticing a new level of concern with a new group of people. And I think it's worthwhile to encourage them. As a believer, I remind them like, hey, God's in control. And Christians have been through a whole lot worse than this and come through on the other side. And this time we have guns, like a lot of them, like a freaking crap ton of them. And that still plays in our favor. So whatever you do, don't give them up. And just you having them, if you never use them, provides you with a certain measure of protection and freedom. Just the very existence of them. And every year, every month, every week, every day, more guns are sold. And let me just tell you, the tyrants are paying attention to that number, and it makes them nervous. So keep buying them. Buy extra ones. Support the industry. Here's the other thing I was thinking of, Pete. I know we are the From Concealment podcast, which means mostly concealed carry guns is what we talk about. I know we talk about a whole crap ton of other things.
Yeah, I think that's maybe that was the first initial episodes. And
the mentality is primarily concealed carry weapons, right?
I will say this. Most of the people who've reached out to me tell me they listen for the tinfoil hat stuff.
Good.
So
good. Well, yeah. I can give more tinfoil hat stuff because I've always got plenty of that. So one of the things I've noticed though, if we're being smart, and plenty of us aren't doing this enough, but we're practicing our from concealment drawing. We're practicing. Sorry, I'm going to have a visitor here. Hey, Micah, we're recording right now, so I need you to be quiet.
No, can I watch TV?
Only while I'm on this call, but go now. Quickly.
Can I have an apple?
Yes, you may have an apple.
Thank you.
This is my life. I had the door closed too.
Oh, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Anyway, I've noticed, first of all, many of us aren't doing enough of our practice for our daily carry. I would say an even smaller number are doing any practice with their AR. And I know you are, Pete, because you're doing competition shooting. I
just did for the first time in, I don't know, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So year and a half. I mean, before I did a training I did a competition last week and a training, I think the week before.
Yeah. And
before I even took it out, I was like, I got to oil this sucker up because ARs, you run wet, man. You want them run wet.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's been too long.
So one thing I will say is you need to do some training with your fighting weapon. And I think that's goes without saying, but it is probably the biggest area of neglect of a lot of guys who are with us here. Yeah. And so two things I would say. One, practice dry firing, man. Practice just like the C-clamp hold, pulling it up, just practice dry firing. Easy to do. Practice just aiming up, whatever. When nobody's home, empty that thing, do as if you're clearing the house. Practice. The other thing, and I was talking to a special forces guy who was saying, practice mag reloads. His suggestion, stand over your bed. I recommend, so you don't get grease or anything on your bed, maybe put down an old blanket, stand over your bed, drop a mag, put another one in, drop a mag, put another one in. Just practice with two mags, dropping empty ones, practice the drop and adding without looking until you and the whole smooth is fast, or slow is smooth is fast. Practice that again and again and again. So if you're practicing ready ups and you're practicing putting in fresh mags, you're going to do the two most important things. And you can do that without expending any ammo. And so encouraging everybody to do that. If you're, working a chest rig, start doing it with your chest rig on too. Just practice. But we need some of that practice, man. And I'm concerned. I think that's an area where many of us are weak in, including myself.
Yeah. And I would say one thing you definitely want to practice, you probably want to do this at the range, is you want to practice tactical reloads on your AR. And we've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. If you have the bolt closed and you've got a 30-round magazine, or in California, a 10-round magazine, and it's filled all the way, you will not be able to push that into your gun.
Yeah.
With the bolt closed, it won't work. And that's, you got to, like, I am in the habit of, my magazines are only filled to 28 because I've got a featureless, and it's not illegal to have a 30-round magazine in California. You just can't buy them or sell them, but you can have them, and you can use them on a featureless, what they call a featureless rifle. I only fill them to 28 because I know if I got to do a tactical reload, I won't be able to push it in there if the bolt is down, if the bolt is closed. It's not going to work. Yeah. And so, like, when we did this competition last week, I remembered one of the stages, because they run the same stages every time. So that way you can kind of like see how you're improving. I was like, okay, I know there's 2 mandatory mag reloads. And I'm like, I want this to be really easy. So I only had 26 in each magazine, because I was like, and it was funny, man. It just went in like butter. It was like right in. Like, it's hard on a 28. It's impossible on a 30. If you got 30 rounds in there, and you got to practice that. And you won't understand until the first time you've done that, like in a competition scenario where you're like, why won't the magazine go in? Dude, it's full. Your bolt is closed. It's not going to work.
Just you got nowhere for it to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Nowhere for it to go.
And I know that there is a school of thought that says fire your weapon empty and then put a full mag in because your bolt is back. I understand that, but none of us are in, we can't expect to be in that scenario. Right. And even with that, man, there's so many things. And I've noticed, like, if I've got 30 rounds in a mag, I've had that top round just pop out of the mag, you know, like, I mean, depending on what kind of mag you've got in there or whatever. So yeah, I'm all about the 28 rounds.
See, you want to reload on the move. And here's the thing, like, you want to reload, like, when you're running from one position to another, while you're doing stuff, and that might mean, okay, you know what? I got to do a tactical reload because I'm getting low. I know I've fired a lot. And so you need to practice how you hold the magazines, putting the new one in, because what happens if you screw it up? Well, now you got nothing, right? So it's not like you drop it. You literally don't drop the other magazine that's not empty. You got to practice how you're grabbing that one and holding the new one and sliding the new one in. And then you take that one that's not quite empty, and you're putting it usually in your back or someplace out of the way, because you might need those extra rounds later.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you need to have as much as you can in the gun at all times, because you don't know how much you're going to need in any given scenario.
Garand Thumb has a pretty good video on this where he talks about re-indexing mags. And I don't think that's the main topic of the video, but he addresses it. And so he has Kydex mag holders underneath his, I think, left side, because they hold open. So he's able to, so when he's re-indexing one that he might shoot later, he's putting it in that empty Kydex holster, because he doesn't have to, like, you know, find a way to get it in there. It's open, it's wide, it's easy. And I thought that was cool. But yeah, man, there's value in that. And then doing it the same every time, so that, you know, okay, the one on my left side is my partially expended magazine, and everything on the front is fully loaded, and anything on the ground is because it's empty and I'm leaving it there because, you know, we got to go.
Who cares?
Get work done. Yeah.
Yeah. What am I going to do? Throw it at them? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to do that though. Like, if it's a last resort and I'm like, take this sucker. Like, I want to know that I've thrown everything I can.
Do you know how many criminals have been stopped with an empty gun pointed at them? Like, it's happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, are you going to risk it? I think their gun's empty, but do I know for sure their gun's empty? Nope. You got me dead to rights.
It's the old Dirty Harry conversation, man. Like, do you feel lucky?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a reminder to do that practicing, everybody. And I don't know if you're like me, I'm getting ready to change my my mag release, because I am right-handed, left eye dominant. So I'm shooting left-handed. There is no good way to try to change mags fast when there's only one mag release and it's on the side that your hand doesn't reach. So it means my mag holding hand has to touch it. And then like, there's just no good way to do that. And because what I want to do is be able to push the button, drop the neck, pull the next one in.
Right.
So I'm looking at a couple, actually, if anybody has any suggestions, I'm looking at a good ambidextrous mag release. And Strike Industries has one. A couple of others have them. I'd just like to know from somebody that they really, really work well, because that's one thing I can't have go wrong.
See, and you actually bring up a good point there. You need to practice using your non-dominant side, your non-dominant hand, your non-dominant everything. I was doing a competition and I got the video. I think it's on our Telegram chat. So you get a stage walkthrough. You get 60 seconds usually to figure out, okay, here's how I'm going to shoot this stage. And then you wait your turn. I should have thought to myself, okay, this I need to shoot left-handed with my rifle and then convert it over to right-handed for the rest, which I'm right-handed. I'm right-eye dominant, right-handed. Because, man, I'm trying to get, because I didn't do it, and I'm trying to shoot this one part left-handed, and I'm like, oh, crap, dude, I cannot get the right angle. And it ate up so much time, and that could kill you, right? Eating up time like that can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Literally.
You got to practice.
Yeah. Practice.
And,
it
wasn't even, because I don't practice it, I didn't think about it.
Yeah. So I try to do, I mean, just by nature of being right-handed, left-eye dominant, I practice both hands, both eyes a little bit. I'm doing much more left just because I'm left-eye dominant. But also I like shooting as a left-eye dominant person. Other than like everything's backwards on the gun, I like it because now it means my strong arm is my point arm. And I kind of like that. There's some benefit to being left-eye dominant, right-handed, but it means I got to get an ambidextrous mag release. Very important. So yeah. Anyway, those are my thoughts for today, Pete. I don't know if you had anything else.
No, I just like to say that I sucked so bad in that rifle challenge. Like, I think I was second from the bottom. That's how bad I was. And because one of the exercises had that 3x magnifier for the red dot, I wasn't zeroed. So my grouping was tight, man. My grouping was tight, just about 2 inches too low. And I literally goose egged that whole stage because I was too low.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. Did the magnifier throw off your
it's
sight?
Not supposed to. I just don't think I don't know what I had it zeroed for, but it wasn't.
I had a friend who I thought he had his zeroed and then put the 3x magnifier and couldn't hit anything. So I don't know what that is.
This was precision shooting. Like if it had been an IS, if it had been a man-sized target, with the proper A zone, I would have been fine.
Yeah. I
mean, all of them would have, but these were, they call it the sniper round. So you have these different circle sizes all on an 11x8 piece of paper. And each circle size, so you got big ones and small ones. And so the big ones are worth less points. The smaller ones can get a lot of points. That's why it's the sniper round. So I'm like, I'm going to go for the second smallest. And the grouping was tight. And I'm telling you, if I was 2 inches higher, I would have nailed it.
You've been great.
I probably would have, at least been middle of the pack, maybe, the top third or something. But no, I goose egged it.
At least your grouping is good. The
grouping was great.
It really does say so.
If it was a man down there, he'd be dead for sure, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to win.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Well, I'll give Lake Erie the notes, and I will tell everybody our Cool Guns event for Lake Erie Arms is coming up here in a few weeks. This is probably our funnest event of the year. We always do free food, free drinks, not alcohol, but free drinks. Free food, free drinks, free shooting, and we've got some really fun stuff. The Ruger PC9 Charger, we're going to have at the range to try out. So the PC Charger, the Ruger PC, right?
Right.
We've got that in the Charger style, which is relatively new because you used to get the 1022 in a Charger. Now you can get effectively the 9mm version. It looks really cool. We've got some other things going on. Should be a great event. 10% off all AR parts, optics, all that kind of stuff. Some really stinking cool guns. You guys got to come out to that. More information on the date coming up, but it's here in just a few weeks. So check out learms.net. Lots of fun stuff going on, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Cool. All right, guys. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the From Concealment podcast with Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams. Be sure to tune in next week for more gun talk. Also, check out the From Concealment website for more shooting-related goodness at FromConcealment.com.